So when I was about to release my movie 11 Years, Bob Dylan's stealing of James Damiano's songs, Dylan's people found out. They had to try to remedy the situation, so they enlisted the Weinstein Company, headed by the beloved Harvey Weinstein, to produce a movie about Bob Dylan titled I'm Not There. It was their way of creating a diversion. The title was purposely worded to be confusing. Dylan was played by 4 different actors to make the movie as confusing as possible. The plot was purposely distorted, and everyone I talked to who saw the movie said that they didn't understand the plot, or that there was no plot at all. I guess they thought that when people asked one another if they saw the new movie about Bob Dylan, that they would add, it was horrible, or it was confusing, to try to discourage people from watching any new movies about Bob Dylan in the relevant time period. However, the new movie was made as a diversion. The facts of my lawsuit were not at all confusing. There were 50 hours of videotape depositions that incriminated Dylan, expert testimony from a musicologist who graduated magna cum laude from Harvard, tons of correspondence between Dylan's entourage and me, 11 years to be exact, blatant admissions of guilt by Dylan's own witnesses, and they had no evidence to protect themselves with other than a lying lawyer, Warren Snyder, and a compromised judge, Judge Simandl, who I'd like to talk about now. I could tell that Dylan's lawyers and Judge Simandl were equally as powerful. Dylan's lawyer drew his power from clients he represented, such as the Clinton Foundation, Anderson Cooper, Goldman Sachs, Harvey Weinstein, Mark Zuckerberg, NBC Universal, and Chevron in the Ecuador oil spill. Snyder was trying to fry me on the stand by lying to Judge Simandl about me. And I have to say that although Judge Simandl had the rule in Dylan's favor 100% of the time, even though I could tell he didn't want to, when push came to shove and the preponderance of the polarity of the evidence was in my favor, Judge Simandl protected me, even though Judge Simandl knew that Dylan had nothing to protect himself with. Nothing as in zero. Judge Simandl was also trying to protect the Constitution. So there's no confusion. We weren't in court for the copyright issue. I was on the stand for being in contempt of Bob Dylan's federal gag order designating all discovery materials as confidential, which I disobeyed for 26 years by being on the internet. It was quite ironic that Dylan accepted President Obama's Presidential Medal of Freedom Award by utilizing a federal gag order on me. Actually, it seemed a bit communistic. Also, Dylan never produced a musicologist with any scholarly credentials to refute my musicologist's music analysis. Music is finite. Musicologists can listen to a melody line and identify the notes to a definite conclusion. Finite means like 2 and 2 is 4. Finite means it's conclusive. There's a conclusion. I apologize for being condescending. Some people might not know the definition of finite. With all Dylan's money, he couldn't buy a musicologist to refute my musicologist's analysis of the music. Since music is finite, a musicologist with any scholarly credentials would not be able to lie in court because they were taught and educated at a college or a university in which they represent. Also, there seemed to be a nefarious plan set in place by Dylan's attorney in collusion with the Library of Congress that was prevented by the grace of God. When my attorney and I sent for the materials I registered with the Library of Congress, we received a letter back from the library stating that we would not be able to retrieve the registration for 180 days because it had been misplaced, although Dylan's attorneys had already received them. I believe Dylan's plan was to erase the most pertinent song, Steel Guitars, which bared, as Dr. Green concluded, the same exact melodic arc as Dylan's Grammy-nominated song Dignity, off my copyright registration. I have a great deal of evidence which would suggest that this was Dylan's plan. The evidence is elaborate, however, it concludes that, in light of a motive, it would be considered to be conclusive. That scenario is fascinating, but too long to go into now, so I'll tell it in another video. An exciting gift for critical thinkers and intellectual minds. An education in politics.